bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Well. Fade to Black. How you doing? How you doing? Bespoke radio for the masses. Today is Tuesday, August 23rd. 236 days into the new year, just 130 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your also humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Let's do this, man. All right. Continuing on our journey, 2 straight weeks of pure UFO. Tonight, Ruben Uriarte is here. Finally, man, excited. We have some really cool stuff we're going to talk about tonight. I mean, seriously, some cases that hopefully you've never heard of, or maybe you've heard a little bit about them, but tonight we're gonna go deep. Trust me. Tomorrow night, Anthony Sanchez is here. Dragged him out of retirement. The UFO Highway. Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport. Call-in number is 323-825-5045. There you go. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, which is what you want to do. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Facebook and YouTube, you know what to do. Follow, like, and subscribe. If you're over on the website, you click on those little buttons. They are right there. You can email throughout the show tonight, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. All right. Any questions or comments during the show? Hashtag F2BQ. Fade to Black questions. Hashtag F2BQ. The sandbox in Twitter is hashtag F2B. And depending on where you're listening to the show, the chat rooms are over at KGRA. That's a fully interactive chat room. And then, of course, our speaker chat room, too, as well. All right. 2 straight weeks. Now, next week is also extraordinary because I told you I would make this announcement last night. I'm going to do it tonight. Monday is Ruben Langdon. He's going to be here. The producer of the citizen hearings in Washington, D.C. will be here. Also, an actor and a stuntman, too, as well. You can go to RubenLangdon.com for all of that info. That's on Monday. Tuesday, Tom DeLonge is here. Wednesday is Linda Moulton Howe. So that will complete 2 straight weeks of pure UFO right here on Fade to Black. Don't forget to check out all of our sponsors on the show. Our newest sponsor here, Fade to Black, is CCCP Publishing. Just click on their banner right now over at Jimmy Church Radio. Very simple. And order Future Esoteric for just $12.97 by author Brad Olson. And that is a very special Fade or Not price. And they will throw an extra book totally for free because you're a Fade or Not in the box. All you have to do is use the promo code Jimmy. All right? And Life Change Tea. Tomorrow night, I think we're going to have Ronnie McMullen on the show tomorrow night. Life Change Tea, one of the great companies in the world. Just click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com and go to getthetea.com. Go to the specials page. Their latest product is Allison C. I am on the regimen right now. Each capsule has 30 to 40 garlic cloves in it. You just don't smell Italian when you take these. They're amazing. And so, yeah, I'm on the pine bark extract 8th element regimen this month, and I'll let you know how I pan out after 30 days. I feel great. Just use the promo code Jimmy when you order from getthetea.com, either over the phone or online, and you will get yourself some free shipping. Also, Studio Dome, the continuing Fade or Not special for all of you Fade or Nots. High-fidelity stereo system includes 2 SB-B2 speakers and power for just $129. That is 60% off the normal price of $399 in a hard shell case. And when you use the promo code JCRTWS, you will also get free shipping. You are all in for $129. Let's get the show cracking. Today, happy birthday to Mr. Rick Springfield. Yeah, I did it. 67 years old. Dude is talented. What was his name? Dr. What on General Hospital? Who did he play? On Allison says she loves the way Italians smell. Barbara Eden today is 85. Yeah, I dream of Jeannie. Barbara Eden, happy birthday. And there you go. Our dead guy's birthday today is the one and only Keith Moon. 1946 and 1978, died at the age of 32. Can you believe it? 1978 seems like yesterday to me, but that's right. The drummer for The Who, and he was named the number 2 best drummer all time by Rolling Stone magazine in 2011. But the curious thing is he was a bugle player with the Sea Cadet Corps when he was 12 years old. Left school when he was 14 and attended Harrow Technical College. He was known for blowing up hotel toilets, and as everybody knows, which pretty much led him to not being allowed in any of the hotels in the entire world. He moved to Los Angeles and then back to London in 1978, dying in September of that year from an overdose of heminevrin, a drug intended to treat or prevent symptoms of alcohol withdrawal. Wow. Happy birthday, Keith Moon. On this day in history, a big one, 1970, Lou Reed plays his last show with the Velvet Underground at the famous Manhattan Rock Club, Max's, Kansas City. Fade or fact. You know, I'm wondering, you know, Velvet Underground back in the day, they didn't sell a lot of records. All right? They didn't have that fame. But the music was great and it was extraordinary, but it ended up influencing just about everybody. You know, I'm wondering if Lou Reed would have ever left if he would have known what the future was. But nonetheless, played his last gig on this day, 1970. Fade or fact. Until 1916, soldiers in the British Army were required to sport mustaches. And that, my friends, is a fade or fact. All right, 2 straight weeks of pure UFO. Ruben Uriarte is here tonight. Tomorrow night, Anthony Sanchez is here. Thursday night, another fader night. Next week, we have Ruben Langdon on Monday, Tom DeLong on Tuesday, Linda Moulton Howe on Wednesday. It just doesn't get better than Fade to Black. All right, I got a little story I'm going to share with you because we've all heard of the Battle of Los Angeles. And I want to thank the legend, Ruben Uriarte, for this. He sent this to me. And I got to tell you, I didn't know about this. I did not know. Now, we've all heard of the Battle of Los Angeles, right? Right after Pearl Harbor, and things were pretty tense and so forth, right? Okay, we get that, and we know. But 60 years ago, there was another air battle that raged over the skies of Los Angeles. And it was a decade after the end of World War II. And U.S. fighter planes were scrambled to protect the city of L.A. from an unexpected aerial threat. Nearby residents would soon run for cover as, and listen to this, rockets rained down on American soil. The threat wasn't from Soviet intruders, right? No. And the pilots did not succeed in their mission. It is known by some as the Battle of Palmdale. Now, just get comfortable and listen to this. What happened that Thursday morning exactly 60 years ago and why the danger is still with us 6 decades on, you'll understand. It's called a drone. At 11:34 a.m. on Thursday, August 16th, 1956, a special aircraft was launched from a naval air station in California. It was a Grumman F-6F Hellcat fighter plane, but it was refitted as an unmanned vehicle, a drone, radio-controlled. It was painted bright red. It was about to be used as a target during a missile test. It would take off and fly at a leisurely pace over the Pacific Ocean before being blown to smithereens. At least, that was the plan. I continue. Instead of taking the desired course, the drone stopped responding to commands from its remote controllers, and it veered southeast towards Los Angeles. It was an immediate danger, a crash in the wrong place, into a house, busy shopping area. It's Los Angeles. And Navy officers quickly got on the phone to nearby Oxnard Air Force Base, which, they have pilots on alert in case of a Russian bomber attack. And Oxnard, that base is the Marine and Navy base that is out near the Malibu underwater base. It's right there, right? Okay. 2 fighters were scrambled to chase the drone, which is now getting really close to Los Angeles. And as the fighter pilots caught up with it, the Hellcat crossed over Los Angeles airspace and eventually into an area above unpopulated land. And this was their first chance. Now, check this out. The pilots' F-89D Scorpions, one of my favorite planes of all time, by the way, were equipped with Mighty Mouse rockets. Now, Mighty Mouse rockets are unguided. Okay? They're just... yeah. And now, it could easily take down the drone if it hit the drone. Scored a direct hit, not a problem. But there was a problem. The rockets failed to launch when the pilots first attempted to fire them using an automatic system. They would have to switch to manual, but at that point, the drone changed its course again, this time back towards Los Angeles. The situation was becoming pretty crazy. An initial volley, check this, over Los Angeles, 42 rockets were fired. No contact. 42. The second pilot fired another volley of 42 rockets. This is over. These are unguided rockets, man. And they still didn't hit the plane. So they fired 84 rockets over Los Angeles. The drone was now headed towards Newhall. And Newhall is here in the valley, over by Simi Valley, right? It's now it's really populated. Back then in 1956, probably still a lot of orange groves and horses and horse stuff. But nonetheless, it's populated. It's the valley. And as they approached Newhall, another volley, another 84. Right? Everything missed. Finally, as the drone turned in a direction towards Palmdale, now that would almost be a U-turn, each plane fired off another round of rockets, this time 30 each. It was their last chance, but every rocket missed. 208 rockets fired. No luck. Nada. 208 rockets over Los Angeles. Could you imagine? You know, here in Burbank, and now I'm telling you, the route that this thing is taking, it would have flown right over our house here in the valley. And countless people were watching this go down in the sky. The drone flew on, but it ended up running out of fuel. Eventually, it crashed 8 miles east of Palmdale, cutting through electric cables and plowed into the ground. Incredibly, nobody was hurt or killed. But all of those rockets hadn't landed without incident, by the way, all along the flight path of the fighters and their bright red quarry, right? Lay destruction caused by the F-89 wayward salvos, if you will. The newspapers of the day reveal the full extent of the damage. Fires raged across 350 acres near Newhall. It took several hundred firemen to deal with those. Shrapnel burst through windows and into homes. One teenager driving in Palmdale had a debris blast through the windshield of his car. Luckily, he escaped without injury. One newspaper wrote up the consequences of an unintentional bombing attack. I'm quoting here. While the Los Angeles Times described as best as it could the uncontrolled and dangerous circle of the drone's flight. Many of the rockets hit the ground without exploding, but there was every chance that a slight disturbance could set any of those off. The United States Air Force circulated a description of the weapons to the residents here in Los Angeles and the Valley in an attempt to avoid any fatal accidents. And I'm quoting here. It was just a bizarre story, says aviation archaeologist Peter Merlin, who stumbled across the incident 20 years ago. He had been reading some old newspapers of the era while researching aircraft experiments and found this story. I have never heard of it. Right? And these radio-controlled Hellcats, they used them all the time during the atomic bomb test. They would fly the drones into atomic clouds and collect samples, you know, keep humans away from all of this. But it's insane. The whole story is nuts, and it actually went down over Los Angeles in 1956. Mark Tarana he just posted a picture. That's a small picture, Mark. If you're going to post one, post a big one of the F-89. F-89 is one of my favorite planes. I'm going to go ahead and retweet that just because it's a cool pic. But yeah, absolutely went down right over Los Angeles. Now, I want to share this with you. That was a fun story. But the USA Today, let me back up. I got this from the Daily Dot, from IDEA, from IPD. And FBI authorized informants themselves to break the law 22,800 times in 4 years. Over a 4-year period, the FBI authorized informants to break the law more than 22,800 times, according to newly released documents. Official records obtained by the Daily Dot under the Freedom of Information Act show the Federal Bureau of Investigation gave informants permission at least 5,649 times in 2013 to break the law. In 2014, 5,577 times. The USA Today previously released confidential informants engaged in otherwise illegal activity, as the Bureau calls it, 5,658 times in 2011. The figure reached 5,939 times a year later, according to documents that have been released. Now, in total, records obtained by reporters confirm the FBI authorized at least 22,823 crimes between 2011 and 2014. Figures from 2015 are unavailable at this time. Those crimes have serious and unintended consequences. For example, An investigation found that an FBI informant was responsible for facilitating, of course, the 2011 breach of Stratfor, something that we have talked about many times on this show. While a handful, Jeremy Hammond and Sabu and that whole thing. Well, a handful of informants ultimately brought down the principal hacker responsible. The sting also caused Stratfor, that intelligence firm, millions of dollars in damages, allegedly, and 700,000 credit card holders vulnerable to fraud, whatever. But more recently, 2013, FBI agents in Louisiana allegedly shot and killed a federal informant. Alan Desdunes, according to court records reviewed by the New Orleans Advocate. He was 37, reported to the Bureau on a daily basis before reneging on an agreement that had kept him out of jail, even after investigators found several $1,000s worth of heroin in his vehicle. Now, it remains unclear whether he was permitted to continue dealing drugs while providing FBI information about his heroin supplier, but nonetheless, it went down like it did. In 2003, a Cincinnati man named Jesse Tuttle was arrested after allegedly breaching the computer network of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. Following his arrest, Tuttle claimed he was an FBI informant, paid $1,000 each time he reported a vulnerability on sensitive government networks. While prosecutors saw charges against him, the FBI remained silent, even after court documents showed he had agreed with the FBI and was an informant. Now, according to Michael German, a former undercover agent with the FBI who researches national security law at the Brennan Center for Justice, the way in which otherwise criminal activity is characterized by the press doesn't capture the intentions of the Bureau's confidential source program. The program is a matter of making sure that illegal activity an informant is involved in is actually authorized. Now, that's the key word. All right? Now, it means committing crimes is doing something of criminal intent. And if you're committing this activity that would otherwise be criminal, but you're doing it for a criminal purpose, I'm doing it for law enforcement purposes, well, then it's not considered criminal activity. You wouldn't let an informant burglarize an apartment and just say, well, that's a victim out of luck because this was an informant and he was helping us in a stolen car ring. That's not how it goes down. But an FBI response whenever asked about its vast informant network is that the agency strictly abides by policies established by the Attorney General's guidelines regarding the use of confidential informants. All right? A Justice Department manual issued by former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales in 2006. It outlines, among other ground rules, specific procedures for validating confidential human sources, the use of monetary payments, and divides otherwise criminal activity into two categories based on the severity of the crime being authorized. Are you listening? There are two tiers. One, a Tier 2 crime, which can be approved solely by an FBI field manager, includes acts that would constitute a misdemeanor or felony under a federal, state, or local law, but a higher degree of accountability, specifically the additional approval of a chief federal prosecutor, is required for Tier 1 activities, crimes that pose a significant risk of violence, the manufacturing or trafficking of drugs, or corrupt conduct by an elected official in a high-level decision-making or sensitive position in federal, state, or local government. So, they authorize 2 levels of criminal activity. Okay? Tier 2. A field manager, just a guy, a rogue FBI agent can go out and tell a dude to go and do it. Doesn't need approval. They need, for Tier 1, the ones that, and I'm quoting here, have a risk of violence, the manufacturing or trafficking of drugs, corrupt government officials. That needs an approval. You got to go up 1 level. The rules by which informants operate today, as outlined by the DOJ Inspector General originate with the Levi Guidelines. And those were issued by former Attorney General Edward Levi in the wake of the Church Committee, Senator Frank Church of Idaho, in the 1970s, in addition to the Civiletti Guidelines, which were later issued by Attorney General Benjamin Civiletti in the early 1980s. Now, yes, extensive reforms have followed the FBI Boston field office's mishandling of informants, including Whitey Bulger, right? Bulger. Revised guidelines issued in 2001 by Attorney General Janet Reno establish, among other measures, as informant review committee and other restrictions on whether federal prosecutors were allowed to withhold details about an informant from the DOJ. Reno also stripped the FBI of its ability to offer informants immunity from criminal prosecution. 22,836 times in 4 years. And the severity and how they do this, the thing is, when it comes to something like Stratfor, a security company, and how that went down with Jeremy Hammond. Jeremy Hammond had it out for Stratfor, and he's a cocky guy, and he was going to do it. But he was also encouraged by Sabu, and Sabu was an FBI informant. He was threatened with his, 130 years in prison or whatever it was, and they were going to take away his foster kids and ruin his life and his family. And so he flipped. But they allowed Stratfor to be breached, to be hacked by Jeremy Hammond. That is a perfect example of that. To me, it's entrapment. They were allowing him. They could have stopped Jeremy. They could have arrested him way before that, right? But they just wanted the breach to happen. And whether that breach happened at Stratfor because somebody had it out for Stratfor at the FBI, don't know. But it is running outside of the law with virtually no restrictions, no guidelines. It's insanity. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. When I come back, Ruben Uriarte is here. 2 straight weeks of pure UFO right here on Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Stay with us. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously. Give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here reminding you that June is Health Awareness Month, sponsored by GetTheTea.com. Many of you have heard our tea commercial. maybe visited the website, but haven't committed because, well, you just don't know. Skeptical. We understand. Just to remind you, our tea is not just tea. In fact, very little tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs, removing intruders that attack your health. You brew our tea to make the concentrate, you add water, and put in the fridge. 2 8-ounce glasses a day, and life will be good. Visit us at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And this month is lots of fun stuff with Health Awareness Month. You could be picked and receive your order absolutely free. You never know. Read the testimonies and try our products. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And for great health tips, visit my YouTube channel at Health Matters Now, where you can learn about health tips and how products work on your body. Join me, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. 2 straight weeks of pure UFO right here on Fade to Black. Now, last night, Jeremy Corbell. Tonight, Ruben Uriarte. Tomorrow night, Anthony Sanchez. Monday, Ruben Langdon. Tuesday, Tom DeLong. Wednesday, Linda Moulton Howe. My friends, my family, it doesn't get any better than that. And you are so spoiled. So spoiled because right now, it's Ruben Uriarte. He had graduated from Cal State University at Hayward East Bay with a BA degree in psychology and Latin American studies. Ruben is a member of MUFON as a field investigator, state MUFON director for Northern California, and deputy director of investigations and international affairs. He currently serves as a board member for OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal and Support Understanding, and the mission of OPUS is to educate and support people having unusual, anomalous personal experiences. Too much coffee before the show. He has appeared on the Discovery Channel's UFOs Over the Earth, the Learning Channel's Monster Hunters, the History Channel's UFO Files, UFO Hunters, Ancient Aliens, the Travel Channel's How UFOs Crashed My Vacation. Love that series, by the way. And the Discovery Science Channel Unexplained Files. He's the author and co-author of several books with No Torres that include Mexico's Roswell, the first and second editions, The Other Roswell, Aliens in the Forest, the Koyami Incident, and Fallen Angel. His website is roswellbooks.com, and I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Ruben Uriarte. Ruben, good evening.
Hello there, Jimmy. Thank you for inviting me and having me on your show. And it was great to meet you there at the conference in Sacramento last week.
Yeah, we had a good time there. I think the first time that we officially talked was the MUFON Symposium last year in Irvine.
Yes, absolutely. That was a great. And by the way, it's happening again at the end of this week, right? Down there in Orlando.
Yeah, it's in Orlando.
Florida.
Yeah, man. I would have liked to have made it this year.
Yeah.
Just couldn't pull that one off. But, it's Orlando, man. Disney, they're tearing it up there right now. So is it this weekend or next weekend?
I think it's this weekend.
Why aren't you going?
Oh, I couldn't afford it this year, unfortunately, because my daughter got married, and I had to save up all my money.
Say no more.
Yeah, that explains it. But next year, I heard it's going to be in Las Vegas, so that's going to be fun.
Oh, man. Oh, no. Oh, did you hear that, Rita? Oh, man. All right. Now, you get the first-time guest disclaimer. which is an honor to do. The next time you're on the show, you don't get it, but you get it tonight, which is it's you and I sitting on my couch in my living room having a conversation as friends, and where we start, where we end, but we're going to end as friends. Are you ready?
All right.
Now, you are okay. Check this out, Ruben, and I think you know this. You're not only well liked, but you are regarded in the UFO community as one of the best researchers, and a for real guy with your feet on the ground, and that's your reputation. Can you feel that? I mean, it's a tough thing to do in ufology, is to get through this thing unscathed. But you're one of those guys. Do you feel that respect?
Oh, yes, I do. It's the reason why is I respect everyone's as well and what they do, and no matter if it's someone who's a newbie in this or someone who's been in the field for quite a long time. And I always appreciate all the little things that people do. That come to our MUFON meetings, for example, or are seriously into some cutting edge research. And I have a lot of great mentors that I follow, and one of them is Stanton Friedman. He's been around for a long time, and hopefully we'll have him again. But he's one of those guys that I look up to, and it's for me. God, I've been with MUFON now. I'm going on 25, 26 years now, and I've seen so many changes over the years. But I really like the direction that it's been going, and especially there's a whole another level of professionalism that I see in terms of training and people out there that are really dedicating themselves into this. This is all voluntary. We don't get a check, but I've been doing it for a long time as well, and I have some great people. I have a great assistant and chief investigator, Devlin Rooney, that hopefully you may want to get her on your show, and a number of other people as well that I like to. I'll share their names later as we get into some of the things that I've been doing. And of course, my good friend, Mr. Noé Torres, my colleague, partner in crime, who lives in Texas, in Edinburgh, along the U.S.-Mexican border. And we've been working together for over close to 10 years, and we've been able to put together some very interesting books. And we also work with other authors. So, one can go to our website, roswellbooks.com, Jimmy, and they could see all the different books that we've been able to put together. But it all, I have to thank Mexico's Roswell, and I'll share with you how that all got started.
Yeah, we'll jump into that in just a bit. And right now, we're going to jump in a time machine and go a little bit backwards, because you've been with MUFON for 26 years. But before that, what drove you into this? Was there something that happened when you were young? Was it your family? What was that epiphany that happened in your life?
One of the things that I find in my life has been the whole term synchronicity. It just seems like things just didn't happen by accident. And there was some extraordinary things that happened to me over the years. But one thing that I do remember, and I've always, I share this with friends and people who always ask me, what got you interested? I had a sighting in Oakland. I used to my family lived in some apartments, and on there was a small park, or like a schoolyard, and then next door was a library. So I remember I was playing, and all of a sudden I looked across the street. And I can still see this right now. I can still see it as it happened. And there was a building that looked like it was a church. And right above, out in the distance, was this round balloon. I called it a balloon because I didn't know what it was. It just was round. But I kept looking at it, and I kept thinking, that's strange. How come it's not moving?
Hey, Ruben, before you
Sure.
finish the story, move the microphone a little bit from your mouth. It's getting a little windy.
Okay.
Okay.
How's that?
There you go. Okay, continue. So you're looking.
Okay.
I'm
looking at this balloon and this round object, and I had this overwhelming feeling that I was being watched. Yeah. So I ignored it, and then the next day or so, I was playing with my friends in the same playground, and then one of the guys yelled. He pointed his finger right up. He says, "Oh wow, a flying saucer!" And I looked up. I missed it, but I just knew it had to be there. I just connected it with what I had seen the day before, and with that, I just said, "What the heck was that?" So that just stayed with me. And later, I became so interested in science. My goal was I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be an astronaut. Yeah, that was pretty big back in the early 50s and 60s. Back then, we were just starting the space program, and then of course there was all these science fiction movies. If you could remember, I don't know how old you are, Jim, but
I'm older than you, I'm sure.
But anyway, I'll ask you your age later.
I'm 52.
Oh God, man, you're still a kid.
Oh, I love you.
I'm going to be 65. Can you imagine?
Oh, no way. No, I thought I was older than you.
No.
Oh, what? Well, really? Yeah. You look great. 65?
Yeah.
Holy crap. No, I had no idea. I had no idea. Okay, enough of the bro love. Okay, so.
Yeah, I know. Senior citizen discounts here.
Yeah, right.
But
in the 1969, 1970, 71, 72, through that era with me, I did the same thing. I wanted to go into the Air Force. My dad was in the Army. I wanted to go in the Air Force. I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to go to the moon. Space 1999 and UFO and all those cool series that were going on back then and Star Trek. That was my plan. And then I had a friend of mine that in the encyclopedia set that we had in the house, you opened it up and it had a section, Britannica, right? It had a section for UFOs. And there they had an article on Blue Book and a picture of J. Allen Hynek. And I thought, this black and white picture, him with his black glasses, I thought, I want to be that guy. And what a cool name, J. Allen Hynek, right? And his goatee and so, yeah, it hit me at a very young age too. And it was, I think all of us wanted to go into that direction. And Blue Book was such a mystery and the government appeared to be still involved and it was like a thing. So, yeah, I'm totally with you. And Blue Book and that era was a really cool time for ufology.
Oh, yeah. I remember the great television programs like The Invaders that came out in the 60s. And
I still watch that.
It's great.
I still watch it. I drive Rita crazy. I'll at night, I'll watch like 3 or 4 episodes of The Invaders on my little tablet in bed, and I can't, The Invaders. Man. Okay, so... did you, aside from that sighting in Oakland, did anything else strange? What led you to MUFON? Did you have another sighting?
Yeah, well, it was really, yes, I did. Had a really unusual thing that happened. I was really much an activist way back, and I don't know if you remember the farm worker struggles and the farm worker strikes back then with Cesar Chavez, and where they were trying to get better working conditions than that. And actually, I had the chance to serve as his bodyguard on a couple of occasions.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And so, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, we went to a rally down in Delano, and we went to deliver food and items like that. And then when we were coming back, I was driving, and there was like 4 or 5 of us, and And all of a sudden, all I remember was I woke up, parked on the side of the road. And when I woke up, all the other guys woke up. And that was really strange. I said, what the heck did I do? Did I pull over? Or did I, or what was it? And I actually was able to get in contact with a hypnotherapist. And what I could recall was I remember seeing these strange lights way out there in the distance of the road. And I remember the engine just cutting out.
Wow.
And that was it, that still leaves me. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's Delano?
Delano's going down Route 99, past, I think it's in the Bakersfield area.
Yeah, I mean, I hear the name all the time, Delano. I just don't know exactly where it's at, but it feels like it's just north of here. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, that was the hub back then, and of course there was just a lot of so many movements that were going on. It was a really hot political time here in our country, with the civil rights and all that. And of course, I went to college, and there was just a lot of, of course we were in the peak of Vietnam War and all those things.
Wow. So there were lights off in the distance, and your car dies. You wake up, and your friends are with you in the car, and they're all passed out too as well.
Yeah, they did. And I looked at them, and I said, "That's strange." I mean, hey, I would have remembered guys getting out of the car, or even myself to go use the restroom, but by the side of the road. But here it was daylight. It's I don't share this story very often, but it's one of those things that still perplex me. And then I could relate so much to other people over the years that share with me their stories of unusual experience. So, and the thing about this, Jimmy, is over all these years, I mean, I met people in different parts of the world, and oh God, I just find how similar their stories are.
Yeah, that's the fascinating thing for me too as well.
Yes, and then I I just realized I have this thirst to wanting to know more, and you should see my library. I've got just tons of books, and that's my goal, is to read as many of these books as much as I can. And there's so many colleagues have written some excellent and materials over the years that I want to get a better understanding of what is it that we're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. And then what was your first MUFON meeting, and what was that like? And was it it had to have been Northern California?
Yeah, that to this day, I mean, I remember being a newbie. In a way, I found out about MUFON was thanks to Bud Hopkins, and I was reading his book, and also the other gentleman. How can I forget Whitley?
Yeah, Whitley. Okay.
His name. How can I forget his name? Anyway. I was reading Bud Hopkins, and he had mentioned MUFON, and then I said, "Gee, this sounds interesting." So I went to a meeting, and I started listening to some of these fascinating stories by some of the people that were there.
Who was running MUFON back then?
Oh God, back then there was a gentleman named Virgil Staff.
Okay, right.
And Paul Cerny. Had a lot of respect for. Paul was a member with NICAP. I think he was their chief investigator back then.
Right. So,
and Whitley Strieber, there you go. I just remembered. So anyway, I started reading these books and got very fascinated on the topic of abductions and some of the as well as some of the work that was being done by the earlier researchers of that time. And I went on my very first investigation, and it was a gentleman who had a sighting going towards Sacramento. And ironically, the irony is that the Sacramento right now, if you were to ask me what's your hot spot in Northern California, it would be the Sacramento area. We're getting more cases, more sightings. I'm not sure why, but it looks like we're going into a second year where that particular area is getting the most sightings.
Yeah, why do you think that is? That whole Central Valley area, Modesto up to Sacramento and a little bit north. Why do you think there is all that activity up there?
It's. I was trying to look into that too. I mean, we do have military bases out there. We do have, beside the very populated areas, also isolated areas. We have the Delta. The Delta waters is in a lot of farmland. And so, if I could start looking at what the patterns are, eventually we'll put together a unique study if this happens. And also, it moves. It does change, Jimmy. The phenomena does move. It may be in another part of California. Now, I had Northern California, and my good friend Jeff Krause runs Southern California MUFON. We're a large state, and we usually lead in a number of cases with MUFON. We get more reported cases. And I have about 45 counties for Northern California, and I believe Jeff has 13 counties for Southern California. However, as you know, Southern California is more populated, and so more of the reports are coming from Southern California.
I have friends and family up in Marin County and the Sebastopol area. And they tell me just about any night they can just go outside or during the day and they'll see something up there in Marin. It's like a daily thing. They don't even care anymore.
Yes, we do get reports of up there in Marin. Once in a great while, and it's very rare, we'll get some crop circles. We've had several up here in this area. In 2004, we had 3 major crop circles that appeared going toward Vacaville. I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but going towards Sacramento. We had 3 of these formations, and they were amazing. I had a chance to go to England 7 years in a row on crop circle expeditions. And how I got involved with that is another story, but I was a director or a research director for Beyond Boundaries, and that was a traveling tour group that took people to UFO hotspots. So I was able to really get a good understanding of crop circles through meeting a number of researchers there in England. And when I saw this crop circle here, Jimmy, I said, who in the hell from England came here to do this?
Right.
Because it had all the unique swirls on it, and it was huge. And what was beautiful was that the farmer allowed people to go on his property and to check it out. And then later, some other friends of mine, independent researchers, and I were able to travel to and research these other crop circles that the public wasn't aware of, only the farmer, but he allowed us to go in there and do the measurements and collect any sort of the wheat that was there and all the other things that we needed to do. And I tell you, it happens periodically, but again, it just depends on what these farmers want. I mean, they want to avoid publicity and they don't want all these people trampling on their fields. So many times they'll go ahead and mow down the formation before, we get there or we get reports. So it is also part of the phenomena. I'm not sure about Southern California. It probably happens there too, but somewhat, rarely. And, the one that we had several years ago, we had one here in Salinas. And unfortunately, that turned out to be a logo.
Oh, was that the one for NVIDIA?
Yes.
Right.
And although there are certain people that felt that there was still something very strange about it, but they did the whole thing. They brought in these experts or hoaxers that they hired, and they created these formations. So that, we have our challenges, but overall, I tell you, I'm just, there's still so much that I need to learn, and I, as soon as you think you have a thought, a conclusion or whatever, it'll change as you get into this.
When we're headed towards a break, and when we come back, I want to discuss Robert Willingham and that case, and and set us up a little bit for this. How and when did you first hear about this?
Well, we have to go back to probably our original research, which was the case in Cuyame, Mexico, where an airplane crashed into a UFO. Or UFO crashing into an airplane over the northern desert of Chihuahua. And so when Noe and I began doing our research, we started to find other references of other UFO crashes along the Texas-Mexico border. And he was able, Noe had some information, I guess it was through Bruce.
Maccabee,
yes, thank you. Who also had met with with Mr. Robert Willingham, and what we found out was that apparently one of the investigators that was involved in this case, with Todd Seckel, I believe, he used to be with NICAP, but he was also part of the NSA. He used to work with NSA and other federal agencies. Apparently, he had retired, but he was also involved in working with Willingham on this case. And he didn't want anyone to get in contact with Willingham. Well, later, Jimmy, we found out that this gentleman died, Todd Seckel. And so I told Noe, I said, hey, why don't we just go ahead and give this Willingham a call? So sure enough, I had the phone number and I called him, and I told Mr. Willingham, picked up the phone, and I started to explain to him who we were. We were interested in talking about him, and we wanted to know about his sighting that he had when he was in the military pilot, when he had this sighting over Texas. And he had observed this UFO flying over their air wing and then crashing into the other side of the Rio Grande into the Mexican boundary.
So he was willing to talk to you then? He wasn't apprehensive?
No, he wasn't. And from there on, we became good friends. We went down twice, 2-3 times to visit him.
Now he passed. We're going to head towards a break. He passed away a couple of months ago, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah. So that's the other sad thing about investigating these cases, is that many of these lead witnesses that you develop a relationship with over the years, they're like family. Later on they'll pass away, and
I got to take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Ruben Uriarte, and this is week 1 of nothing but pure UFO coverage here on Fade to Black. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this fascinating case with Robert Willingham and his F-86 and what happened in Texas. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Keely, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
Fade or not,
things are never what they seem. For the past century, forbidden subjects such as UFOs, backward engineering, human abductions, secret space programs, underground bases, suppressed free energy devices, and other fantastic notions have tested the human mind, forcing it to decipher fact from fiction. Chronicling what he calls the alternative narrative, author Brad Olson gets down to the middle of it all in his best-selling book, Future Esoteric, now released in a second edition by CCC Publishing. And now, you can get Future Esoteric at a special price, plus another free book by just using the promo code Jimmy when you check out. Just click on the Future Esoteric or CCC Publishing banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go back, Lee Tepe. IRA and 401k account holders, are you crossing your fingers for the stock market to continue its bull run? Or hoping for a miracle to pay off our $19 trillion national debt? American Bullion wants you to think for a moment. If we go through another significant stock market correction and things begin to unravel, you could suffer some serious losses. On the other hand, gold is a proven long-term asset that could hedge and protect your retirement accounts from getting washed away. Call American Bullion now and let them show you how easy it is to transfer your existing IRA or roll over your 401k into a gold IRA. American Bullion has an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and is a leader in gold IRAs. With just one call, their experts can explain everything there is to know and get you started with a free gold IRA guide. Call 1-800-545-2525. Don't procrastinate. Save your retirement. Call American Bullion now at 1-800-545-2525. That's 1-800-545-2525.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go back, Lee Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. 2 straight weeks of pure UFO coverage right here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Ruben Uriarte is here. Now, and Ruben, I want you to set everybody up for this, because this is, not only is it the subject of a great book of yours, and everybody can go to roswellbooks.com and check it out and order the book. But it's an extraordinary case, an event. And I've heard Robert tell the story firsthand in the past. And it's got all of the elements of crazy. I mean, it is right there. So start from actually the beginning with him in flight, and what was he doing, what kind of plane, and so forth. What was he doing in the skies?
Yes. Well, all started in approximately in the early spring of 1955. Both Robert Willingham, and 3 other fighters, jet fighters, were flying escort for a group of B-47 bombers. And during this time, they had a number of exercises, simulated bombing runs that they would do across the United States. And this particular group of B-47s was flying toward from Texas up to Arizona, and then there would be another air wing of fighters that would take over. Well, what happened was that someone had reported that there was this bright object that was coming, flying from the north, going southward toward their direction, and what Willingham observed was this very bright light, but he noticed that it was wobbling and moving, and then all of a sudden it made an abrupt right-hand turn and flew toward direction of the Mexican border. And he got permission to follow that object.
So he breaks off from his formation.
Yes.
And this turned out to be a disc, but this bright light, it turned in front of him, didn't it?
Yes, practically right in front of the whole air wing that he was with. And as it made that 90-degree turn, so he got permission to follow the object. So once he saw it crash right on the other side of the Rio Grande, and it broke into several pieces, and he flew low. He flew around it and was able to see the smoldering crash. Well, he noticed that he was running low on fuel, and so he received permission to go back to base, which he did. Once he landed back at his base, was there in Carswell. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, I didn't realize I could actually. I could actually tune into some of his recordings if you like, but anyway, are you still there, Jimmy?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just listening. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So he flew back. Actually, if with your permission, maybe I could just have a little bit of his him describing what he saw. Would we have enough time for that?
You can dial it up maybe in the next break and get it ready to go.
Okay, we'll see.
It'll play back on your computer?
Yeah, I was able to hear it on my headset. I'm not sure if you were able to hear it.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So it probably won't play back. Okay.
All right. I'll continue then.
Okay.
So what he did was he went back, and then he decided to fly back to the original crash site.
How did he get permission to do that?
He didn't. He just went and got the airplane. He wanted to go back to see the crash site.
So he fuels up. Now he's now he's topped off.
Yeah, he's topped off. Actually, he switched airplanes and flew back in one of these old. It was called an Aeronica, in a trainer. It's one of those.
That's right.
Type.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, he switches planes.
And then he talked to another friend of his who was an engineer in Perkins, and he joined Willingham. So they both flew back to the crash site. It took them several hours to get there. And what they did was they landed right on the Mexican side of the border, right by the riverbank, and they got out. And when they arrived to the crash site, they noticed that there were a number of Mexican soldiers guarding the perimeter of the crash site. So he also noticed a number of military vehicles there, and he saw the remnants of the disc. He said he was actually able to see it looked like it had a dome structure to it. What he did was he was approached by one of the senior officers there, and the officer spoke English to him, and then he told him they were there. They were waiting for someone from the United States Air Force to arrive. And I thought that was interesting.
I did too. Yeah.
Yeah, they were there waiting, and it gets even more bizarre there, Jimmy. But anyway, what he did was he looked at the remnants of the crash, and he actually took a peek inside. And later, we found out that through him that he actually remembers seeing bodies of aliens that were inside that crash. So he, so it was starting to get dark, and there was still the smoldering flames and everything. And he noticed this is one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite segments of this. But he told me that it was starting to get cold, and that the Mexican soldiers were putting their blankets on the wreckage because they heat up their blankets, and then they were wrapped the blankets around themselves to keep warm. So they would use the crash remnant to heat up their blankets, and then they would go wrap those blankets around themselves.
Why?
And he said,
I'm sorry. Why did they say why they were waiting for the American Air Force to show up?
No, they were just saying they noticed that Willingham had his flight suit on, and they thought that he was obviously part of the Air Force that was arriving to check out the crash. But then some more senior military officers came, and they were getting very nervous, and so they told Willingham he had to go. And so when he left, Willingham picked up a piece of metal that he found. He put it in his pocket, and then he was able to fly back. The next day, when they were gathered for a briefing, the senior commander there at the air base told all the pilots that they were not to say anything, they didn't see anything, or there would be severe consequences if they said anything about this. And it gets a little more bizarre.
Yeah, it does. It gets crazier. So before we get to that part, I want to back up. How did he describe the beings that he saw?
The way he described them was that they were. He just said that their arms were skinny like broomsticks, and they had big heads and black eyes. But some of them were destroyed or mangled from the crash.
Did any survive?
To my knowledge, we don't know really.
Right.
That was just because he was told to leave.
And how big was the craft? What was left? How big was it?
I forgot what he told offhand, but I believe it was around 25 feet in diameter, about 35 feet in diameter.
Right. And were the Mexican army who was there? Were they alarmed? Were they scared? What were they acting like?
Yes, well, they were keeping their distance. They're just keeping the guarding the perimeter. But from what he shared, what Willingham had shared with us, they were friendly, but they also were just making sure that he didn't get too close. And the concern that Willingham had for the soldiers that were using those blankets was radiation contamination. He said he didn't think that was a good idea, what they were doing.
Right.
Obviously. So then he said he asked the Mexican soldier or one of the commandants what were they going to do with it. But he said that either they were going to take it somewhere further into Mexico or just wait till the U.S. Air Force arrives. My hunch is that it was taken back to some undisclosed location in the United States.
So what happened after the briefing?
Well, what he did was, and he wanted to really understand what this piece of metal was all about. and he was he understood metals because he himself metallurgist. His father had worked in the oil rigs there, because that part of the country was oil platforms and that. And so Willingham had a good idea about it. So he tried to cut it, with a welding torch, and it wouldn't move, there were no physical effects from it. So he took it up in Virginia to a lab.
Now he was a private pilot. He had his own plane, right? So he would fly around the country too, as well.
Well, he was still in the military, and they had to fly up to Virginia.
Oh, that's what it was, right?
Yes, and so there was a laboratory that he left the metal with, which was the big mistake there, because Willingham was later try to find out what happened to the metal, right, if there were any results. And what he was told was the lab had closed down, and he had spoke to a Marine a major that was in charge of that lab that was also going to do the analysis. But it turns out that, and this is other part of the research that we're still finding out, Jimmy, is that there's a connection between that laboratory and I believe with Fairchild. Do you remember Fairchild Republic?
Yes, of course.
They were a large military, or a large firm that made military airplanes and rockets. And I'm still doing research on this aspect of it, but Fairchild Republic, they made a lot of exotic weapons, and they were interested in metals, exotic metals that could withstand high heat temperatures. So that might have been the reason why they kept that piece of metal away from Willingham, because they were still studying it. So what happened was that Willingham had later, unfortunately, had some stroke. This is later in his career, and he was trying to collect on his military benefits and that, and they denied him. When part of the problem that he had was that his military records were destroyed in a major fire at one of the, I think in Missouri, where the number of military records were destroyed, and his records were destroyed among all those others. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to prove a lot of his military background because he didn't have the documentation. Then again, it might have been a reprisal against him because of his him coming out and starting to talk about this case.
It's the same old story, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And this is the thing that we're finding out in all the books that we have written, was there's always a connection there, Jimmy. Because with this case here from 1955, we go back, to the Koyama case that happened in 1974, and some of the other crashes, where these people, or these prime witnesses, are either threatened or told not to say anything, and yet later, there's something unfortunate will happen to them. And so we've this was the other case that I shared about in the case that I had discussed in Sacramento, where if it's okay, do you want me to continue with the story, or go ahead and jump in?
Well, as we start to wrap up with Willingham, before we move on with him, why did he decide that it was safe to come forward? Because I know that here he is. He's a decorated World War II veteran. He was in the Korean War. An established fighter pilot. Had everything to tell about his experiences, right, of being in the military. But if he was denied everything and his records are gone, then I'm not sure if he's worried about his pension or he's worried about the military coming after him because they've lost his records. Why did he decide to go ahead and come forward with his story?
Well, we think that part of it had to do with the prompting of the other gentleman that was working with him, Todd Zeckel, that I mentioned earlier, because Todd was involved with NICAP, and they wanted to get further information on him, and then the Willingham was somewhat protected through terms of anonymity, but later, of course, he just wanted to get the word out. He said, that this was something quite extraordinary that the American public needed to know.
Yeah, and his detail in describing everything, it was right down to, nuts and bolts and the ground and the atmosphere and the planes and the people and
absolutely.
Yeah, the detail to the story it's extraordinary. It could be a movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we met with him, actually with fortunately Noe went and met with his the person that was taking care, his guardian, because Robert was having a lot of health issues, and so this one lady who was basically overseeing his estate was able to acquire all these records, all the Willingham's records, and with the permission of the family, they forwarded those records to us. So we're going through those records, and we're going to be updating, probably coming out with a new edition of this case. There's a lot more detail to it.
Now let's go ahead and move on. Let's go to the 1974 Rio Grande case, because this one again, the documentation and the way that this whole thing is played out, it's one of the most extraordinary cases that we have. Everybody wants to talk about Rendlesham or talk about Roswell or Kecksburg and what have you, and they should. I get that, but this case, this involves two governments, an explosion. I don't know if Mexico thought that we were attacking them, but it's got all of the elements again, just like the Willingham case, doesn't it?
Oh, this is a whole other significant story. And when I first got involved in it, the History Channel was interested in doing a review of that case, as well as all the other UFO happenings in Mexico. And so I was able to get a number of contacts for the producer. And I didn't realize that they were going to do a whole series of Roswell-type crashes, like from England or in Texas and China and all the other, Russia, all the other countries. But they did one specifically on the Koyama case, as well as the other happenings that were going on in Mexico. And originally, I wasn't going to be involved in it. I was just helping out Jimmy. And this is where synchronicity comes into the picture. The producer was looking for a investigator that would just narrate the case, and we couldn't find anyone that was available. Everyone was some of the key people that we wanted were very busy. And then she said, "Hey, Ruben, we want you to do it. Let's have you do it." So I did. I did the narration of that case, and it turned out to be really an excellent thing, because that's how I connected with Noe. Noe saw the episode of Mexico's Roswell, and Noe was very interested in UFO sightings and was doing some research that had occurred in the Texas area. So Noe had contacted me, And so I started sharing with him information, and then he said, "Hey, Ruben, let's collaborate. Let's do a book together." And I said, "Sure, and I think that would be great." And so we started work together on this case, and through that we met a number of witnesses. We networked with a number of Mexican investigators from across the border, and we were able to put together this story. And it was based off a document called the Deneb Report, Jimmy. This was a report that was written by, we think, military insiders, because they described in detail the whole geography of what had happened, and then how they came across the UFO crash, how they wore protective equipment and clothing. When they left, there was several of these crash retrieval teams that left out of Fort Bliss, that was based in El Paso, and they flew directly into Mexican airspace to recover this downed disc.
Now, the disc collided with another airplane.
Yes.
And that aircraft, was that aircraft from the United States, or was it from Mexico?
Based on the document, apparently it was a small plane that was leaving out of El Paso, and it was flying toward Mexico City. And in that, it flew going toward over northern Chihuahua, and that's when it collided with the UFO.
And the UFO was apparently traveling a couple of 1,000 miles an hour. Where did they get that data from?
From again, this was coming out of that report. It flew out from the Gulf of Mexico. It was flying toward Corpus Christi, and then it avoided over U.S. airspace, and it followed the Mexican border along the area of northern Mexico, where in that part of the country it's very much unpopulated. It's a very very rugged desert area. And as it did that, it flew northbound, and then it collided with a small airplane southbound. So it wasn't until the next day that there was a search and rescue efforts by Mexican military teams that went out there, and that's when they discovered the airplane, but they also discovered the downed craft. And what was weird is that,
and let me jump in right there. I got to take a quick break. Let's do that now. Our guest tonight, Ruben Uriarte, and we're talking about the August 25th, 1974 crash along the Rio Grande River near the Texas border, town of Presidio. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
FoodForLiberty.com sells high-quality, storable foods from Numana. And right now, take advantage of our summer special. Purchase 2 family packs and we'll send you a Pro Pure Water Pitcher, a $70 value, free. This premium pitcher is ideal for use with just about any water source and removes more contaminants than other brands. And it comes with a filter that lasts up to 2 full years. Whether you need to be prepared in the event of an emergency, you're an outdoor sports enthusiast, Numana is known for high-quality, great-tasting, GMO-free, super nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. And with a 25-year shelf life, you can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. Go to foodforliberty.com right now for great-tasting, high-quality, storable foods from Numana. Buy 2 family packs and get the Pro Pure Water Pitcher free. It makes good sense to be prepared. Get it at foodforliberty.com.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall. And it's out of here.
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm here with Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Ruben Uriarte, and we're talking about his book, well, many books. This is the second one we're talking about tonight, The Koyami Incident. And it's about a UFO crash that collided with a private airplane flying out of El Paso near Presidio, Texas. And now the unidentified flying object came from the Gulf of Mexico, went across the border between Texas and Mexico, and then collided with this plane that had just taken off out of El Paso. And then both crashed on the Mexican side of the border. And that's where we're picking up there. Now, the military out of Fort Bliss, did they have a pinpointed area? Did they know where they were going to, or were they just searching?
No, actually, Jimmy, was they were they followed the flight path of this object as it went into Mexican airspace, and then they also had spy satellites and reconnaissance aircraft flying over in that particular area, and they started to monitor the activities of the Mexican soldiers as they went in, and they picked up the disc object.
Now, who got there first?
Well, it was actually it was the Mexican soldiers, but
right.
What they were able to haul off the object. Now, get this: the disc was approximately 16 feet in diameter. It was a small disc, and they also had the wreckage of the plane. I noticed nothing much about the occupants based on this report. But what happened was that the convoy that was going back, we think was going to the Mexican Army base, which is in Ojinaga, which is north of Chihuahua City, right across, really close to Presidio, Texas, right across the border from Presidio, is the Mexican Army base. That we believe that was where they were going to take it, and what they were going to do with it, who knows? But what happened was that the convoy stopped, and as these reconnaissance satellites were picking up images, they noticed that there were a number of dead bodies, bodies laying on the ground, and that's what immediately triggered the response from the retrieval teams out of Fort Bliss to fly immediately toward that direction. As the report indicates, they arrived, they found all the soldiers dead. Again, the retrieval teams from Fort Bliss, they wore these protective suits, biological suits. They were obviously very concerned about radiation, or maybe there was something else, some sort of virus or whatever. But they took proper contamination procedures. What the stories in the Deneb report, it states that they flew the disc, they hauled the disc away by one of these large Sikorsky type helicopters, or a Sea Stallion. It's a very large helicopter, and they hauled it back right over toward the Davis Mountains, which is a region right there across the border. And apparently, they later took the disc either on rail or on truck back to Atlanta, Georgia. And we were wondering, well, what's in Atlanta, Georgia? And then we realized that the Center of Disease Control is headquartered there, and just quite possibility that they may have went and used the special labs that were there. I think they call them Category 4, where those are the labs that are fully equipped to deal with any serious diseases or any sort of contamination.
To be clear here, so the Mexican convoy, they got the disc, they loaded up on a flatbed, they take off, and then literally got sick and started to die. They pulled over to the side of the road, and those were the bodies that the spy satellites had seen, and they were literally dead. The American armed forces pull up. I'm not laughing at the death. What I'm laughing at is the convoy just had to stop driving, right? And
yes,
and that was the opportunity for the United States to step in and grab this craft. That's actually what happened.
And what's really eerie about this, I don't know if you remember the movie Andromeda Strain.
Absolutely, one of my favorites.
That was released in 1971. It just follows almost the same plot, where there was a government project called Project Scoop, and they went into a town to retrieve the downed satellite, and they found all the townspeople that were dead. And they were very concerned about this extraterrestrial pathogen that was possibly might have endangered, the rest of the area there. So they went in there and tried to retrieve the satellite. And again, this is coincidentally very similar to the case of 1974, Mexico's Roswell. And what's even more eerie, Jimmy, is that the movie was actually filmed in a little small town called Shafter, which is about 20-30 miles from Presidio. It's just weird. 18 miles actually.
I did not know. I did not. I always thought Andromeda Strain was shot out here in the desert in California. They shot that in Shafter.
Shafter, yes. Robert Weiss was the director of the time.
Yeah, great movie.
Great, yes. And so it's almost the same theme. Now, a couple of things about this case, Jimmy, that even get more bizarre is that we had it posted on Wikipedia about the Mexico Roswell crash, the Coyama crash, and then someone went in there and had added some information. They added what we found was they had added names of the Mexican soldiers with their serial numbers.
Really?
And yes, and then it gets even more bizarre. They also added the names of the American soldiers that were also supposedly involved in this retrieval. I think it was about a 15-man recovery team, and they wrote out the names of who they were. So right now, that's part of our other aspect of this research is to verify the names of both the Mexican and the American soldiers that were being mentioned and supposedly involved in this whole incident. It gets even more bizarre. Yeah, because this is all based on a document. Now, in our over the years, over the last several years, Jimmy, we've actually been meeting people who remember seeing a strange cloud that was behind the mountain on the Mexican side, but the witnesses are from the United States. Are able to look across the border and seeing this strange plume of cloud, almost like an atomic blast. Because that was the other thought, was perhaps the U.S. military team went in there and quarantined, maybe used a nuclear device or a small suitcase type of device to cleanse the area. Yeah, or it wasn't the explosion because this was seen during daylight. But one of the most bizarre stories that we heard came from a gentleman who was with the LAPD at the time. Well, he just retired, but when he was a boy, he had family in the little small village of Koyame. So around the summertime, him and his family would go and visit their grandparents. And he had heard me, by the way, on radio. And then he and I heard his story because he was actually on your other radio show way back Coast to Coast. He was describing his story about what he saw in Koyame, and I thought, I got to get in touch with this guy. And sure enough, we were able to hook up later. And as it turned out, he told us that he was riding his horse and it was getting late. And so when he got off his horse, he started to brush it, and then there was a road, and across the road there was a cornfield. And he started looking out there, and he noticed that there was something coming toward him. And he thought, maybe it's an animal or a small dog. And he said, no. He looked at it, and then all of a sudden he saw this small little person with a big head. With the big head, it kept moving left to right, as it was having a problem. As this being had a small thin neck, was having a problem with balancing the head, and it had red eyes. And he also noticed that it had a protrude forehead with these small little stalks, little protruding from above its head. And so he ran like heck to his grandmother's house and started to tell him that what he saw. And then his grandmother said, "Oh, this what you saw were the diablitos, the little devils." And the reason why this witness remembered this incident was that he had seen a documentary on the crash that occurred in Brazil, Regina, Brazil, where there were two of these beings that were picked up by or retrieved by the Brazilian military. I don't know if you remember that case,
Jimmy. Absolutely.
And he said they looked exactly like those beings. And up to today, I've been in contact with some key researchers. They're in northern part of Chihuahua. And they've been sharing with me that those same type of beings have been observed by other witnesses. So something really quite unique and very strange has been occurring here between the United States and on that part of the border.
Was that the only report of bodies at Koyame?
Yeah, in the report itself, it mentioned no bodies. There were no dead bodies. However, the policeman who shared his story of when he was a kid, that happened right around August, the later part of August. Right within the same time frame. Maybe, just maybe, we might be. Some speculation is that there might be some sort of hidden underground base in that area, which there's some theories that there is one in that part of Mexico and as well as in the southwest United States.
Yes, yes. And whatever happened with the craft after Atlanta?
From there on, it went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as well, and from that's all the information that we have at this point.
Let's go on to the next case, Cisco Grove, which again, and with all three of these cases and books, kind of lost in UFO lore, if you will, and they should be front and center, all of these cases. The Cisco Grove case is one of the most fascinating cases, of all time. And I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name.
Don Schrum.
Yeah, Don Schrum. An incredible witness with an incredible story.
Oh, Jim, I mean, this gentleman here, again, it was all through synchronicity to have connected with him because, as I had mentioned earlier, one of the Paul Cerny, who was with NICAP back then, was then later on the Northern California State Director, and later he was appointed as a Western Director. Well, he passed away, and I was very fortunate to acquire a number of his records and a number of his cases that he investigated many years ago. And the one that I saw was known as the bow and arrow case. And I started to read it, and I thought, holy cow, here you have a guy who's going deer hunting, gets lost, has to climb up a tree to avoid predators like bears and lions and that. Later sees a light, thinking that it might be a helicopter or part of a search and rescue team. It turns out to be a spaceship, a large cylinder-like object that hovers right by the tree. And then later, a small scout ship is ejected from the larger ship, and it lands.
Yeah, before we continue with the story, set us up for this. Where is Cisco Grove?
Cisco Grove is off of Highway 80, as if you're heading toward Reno and toward Truckee, close toward the Lake Tahoe area.
Very remote, very mountainous.
Yes, you head up toward the. It's about 70 miles from Sacramento.
Beautiful area, beautiful part of the country.
It's part of the lake. It's part of the Tahoe National Forest, and it's heading toward from Truckee to Reno.
And how many? And he was up there with a couple of friends, right?
Yes, that he had worked. Let's see here. He and his two friends.
They set up a campsite.
And they basically, it was getting dark, and so they decided to do some night hunting. And what happened was that he went ahead and started walking up a ridge, and later it got too dark, and he realized he wasn't going to be able to get back. And so he decided to stay and climb up a tree. He was a very experienced hunter. He used his wits quite a bit. What I wanted to say was that both he and his friends used to work for Aerojet, and he had worked as a welder. And Aerojet, they constructed missiles such as the Polaris, for the Navy submarines back then, the Titan rocket, the Minuteman rocket during the 60s. So one of the reasons why this case was not well known was that his concern was about losing his job. So Paul Cerny, who was the lead investigator, kept his name anonymous in order so that people wouldn't know about his identity until years later. So what happened was, Jimmy, that this scout ship landed, and there were these small humanoids, approximately about 3 to 4 feet tall, and they wore like these bulky suits. There were bellows at the elbows and at the knees. They were wearing like helmets, and the eyes were almost like goggle size, because I had to ask them what they looked like. But also was that they had along with them was this robotic being that also went up to the tree. And so they were trying to pull this Don down from the tree, and Don would climb up further to avoid them. And this robot would immediately release vapor from its mouth. And this vapor would travel up to the tree toward Don, and it was causing Don to lose consciousness and asphyxiation symptoms like. So Don almost fell down, but what kept him from falling was his bow. And so he immediately climbed up, tied his belt around himself, and started breaking off branches, lighting them on fire. He threw his hat at them. He threw money at them. And then every time he moved, he would rock the tree back and forth. And this would alarm the beings. The humanoids would rush back because they just were really quite curious, but also frightened by the movement of the tree as he was shaking it. There's a lot of detail that went on, of course, in his all-night battle with him. But finally, what they did was another ship landed, another scout ship, and another robot had joined these guys. And so both of these robots were facing each other. And there was, as he remembered, there was all this lightning, like these sharp electrical bolts going between each other. And all of a sudden, this massive plume of vapor went right up to the tree, and it knocked him out. So when he awoken, he was still, they had gone, and he was dangling from the tree. And then when he went and dismounted, he was able to go back to his campsite, and he told the guys what had happened. He slept for about approximately 6 hours, and finally he went and talked to his wife, and his wife's mother happened to they knew an astronomer, and the astronomer convinced them that they ought to talk to the Air Force. Now it gets a little more interesting. It just so happened that they received a letter to meet with these Air Force officials. They're in Sacramento, and it was near these homes that were next to McClellan Air Force Base. And it just so happens that McClellan Air Force Base was part of the Air Force Logistic Command, and guess where its headquarters is at, Jimmy?
Tell me.
Right, Patterson Field near Dayton, Ohio. Right. Isn't that interesting? And so the representatives, they met with Don and his wife Judy, and there was two of them. Their name was Captain McLeod and the Master Sergeant Barnes. And they listened to Don's story, and he basically later told them, you know what, you probably perhaps you ran into Boy Scouts or they were creating a prank, or maybe it was Japanese soldiers, or maybe it was in some sort of military exercise. Don just couldn't believe what they were saying. They were just debunking him. And then Don said, yeah, why would anyone want to keep a man in a tree all night? And why would they dress up that way? So anyway, he was very, very disturbed by what these Air Force representatives told him. And then later, he decided to go back to the campsite with his brothers. So they arrived back to the campsite, and he noticed that the entire area was raked, but he noticed there were a bunch of cigarette butts in the ground, and he just knew that the Air Force must have arrived and to scope out the area and to clear the area of evidence. But what he did find was one of his arrows, and so the thing about our book, Jimmy, was that Don and his wife, they really wanted to get the story out, the way they saw it, because there was different variations of it, and we're constant contact with his son, and he shares with us additional information that we hopefully we may update that book again. But Don just passed away several months ago, and I think we both, Noe and I, we met their wishes, because about several years ago, right before we finished the book, Judy, Don's wife, came down with cancer, and then she later died. But I'll never forget the look on her face. We sent our first shipment of books to Don and Judy, and the son took pictures of their faces, and it was like such an overwhelming peace that they had.
Right. Well, and you've got a lot of interviews that you've done with him and videotaped. Are those posted?
Oh, yes. In fact, I mean, you can go on YouTube and you can see some of our lectures, and we do have posted the actual interview segments, vignettes that we did with Don. But the other unique thing about this is, I look at it this way. What do you think the aliens would think about humans being in a tree? I mean, they come from far away and they see people up in a tree. What do you think runs through their mind?
Well, there's that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the other thing is the reactions that they have, because I started to look at another case which I had shared with the audience, of a case that happened in Mexico, near the border, right here in Southern California, across on the other side of the case called La Rumarosa. And that's a desert region, which there were 3 young men that got lost on a hiking trip. They were Boy Scouts, actually, 2 Boy Scouts and their group leader. And they were with a larger group, and they followed a different path, and it was getting dark, and they did the same thing, Jimmy. They went and they climbed up a tree. Only this case is also bizarre, and I wanted to share a little bit about that case, because I find some striking similarities between what happened to these young boys and with Don Trump.
Well, let's pick that up after the break, and we'll go ahead and do that now. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Ruben Uriarte, and we're talking about all of his books and these cases that, to me, for some reason, they're just not discussed, and they should all be on the front burner for all of us. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Ruben right after the break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you tired of brown rust stains on your toilets, sinks, and clothes? Does your water smell and taste bad? Don't live with these problems anymore. Hydrocare's revolutionary well water systems, available at Wave Home Solutions, gives you clean, healthy, great-tasting water from every faucet. They remove iron, hydrogen sulfide, sediment, and many other contaminants that are distasteful and damaging your fixtures. You'll be amazed how fresh and clean well water can be. Satisfaction guaranteed. Go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Fade or not, things are never what they seem. For the past century, forbidden subjects such as UFOs, backward engineering, human abductions, secret space programs, underground bases, suppressed free energy devices, and other fantastic notions have tested the human mind, forcing it to decipher fact from fiction. Chronicling what he calls the alternative narrative, author Brad Olson gets down to the middle of it all in his best-selling book, Future Esoteric, now released in a second edition by CCC Publishing. And now, you can get Future Esoteric at a special price, plus another free book by just using the promo code Jimmy when you check out. Just click on the Future Esoteric or CCC Publishing banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Teppy. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Teppy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Use hashtag F2B for the sandbox. Our guest tonight, Ruben Uriarte, and we're discussing his books. But before we get back to some of this, Ruben, I wanted to ask you, there has been so many reported cases in Mexico over the years, but lately, the last few years, there doesn't seem to be the preponderance of activity that there was in years past. Is it because it's not getting reported? Is the activity still there? Or why do you think there is this silence when Mexico was so willing to come forward with documents and disclosure?
Well, actually, it's still very active. Thanks to the internet and Facebook. I've been in contact with a number of these investigators, and they do share with me some of the unique cases that are going on in their in various regions of Mexico. I mean, back in 1994, we had the big flap, right, of sightings in Mexico that was.
Oh, it was insane.
Nationally.
It was insane. It was insane. Oh,
exactly. And it was really, the early 90s when, it was really amazing. All these variety of sightings that was occurring. Of course, he had our good friend Jaime Malzahn, who was also very much involved in sharing these stories on his various programs and that. And since then, there's been a number of other researchers that have their television programs, and also to do investigation. And you met one of them, Mr. Victor Camacho.
Yep.
Yeah, a great guy. So right now, in fact, there is something developing of UFO sightings in Tijuana. And I've been looking at some of these pictures, and wow, it's very interesting. These round objects that are being reported. Also, along the border, right there, the California-Mexico border. Also, there's a lot of activity going on in Mexicali, which is across the little town of Calexico. By the way, Jimmy, I don't know if you know this. I was born in Mexico. I was born in Mexicali, so I'm very familiar with the border situation. And And as a result of that, that has helped me also make some good contacts with a number of people from both sides of the border there.
With your research over the last couple of decades, we've all seen different trends of objects. And what do you think is causing that? From flying saucers to cigar-shaped objects to black triangles lately, including the things that I have seen, and you too, of these giant orbs that
Yes.
are flying around. Why do you think it's changing?
Well, we may not know why specifically. What is the use of this different type of technology, and whether or not it's the same group of beings
Right.
that are piloting these vehicles. But
Well,
again,
the reports that you get in with MUFON, what has been the most recent trend for you?
oh, the big thing that's been that I've been following as well is we have a special committee has been the whole orb situation.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. I tell you, you get reports of orbs following airplanes, and they come in different colors, different sizes, metallic to different colors like blue, or green, or red, or magenta. So that's also prevalent, and also in Mexico as well. So you get these varieties, and the thing that I find again, this connection between Mexico or the behavior of these beings is, as I mentioned earlier, about the Donald Trump case, is that these guys that were out there, I forgot to mention this, but they weren't really interested in Don Trump. They were out there exploring and looking at the plants, and they seemed to have an interest in the rocks first. And then later, they came up right up to the tree toward Don Trump. And this is exactly what happened to those boys. They had observed these luminescent beings way out in the distance. And then slowly, there was an object that flew right above them. It was a small disc, and it stayed right above the tree. And later, there were a number of other objects that flew around the perimeter of the tree. It started to form geometric patterns. And then these luminescent beings were out there in the distance, and they were looking at plants. They were studying the animals. They were carrying the instrumentation. And they gradually came right up to the tree where the boys were at. And they had a curiosity with these boys. They didn't harm them, but some of them were able to climb right up to the tree, get close to the boys, and then climb further up to a tree. And they were able to get into a small disc because a door would open. They used the tree as a ladder. But what really got me, Jimmy, was the fact that these beings glowed. It was almost like a bioluminescence,
right?
Which we see with fireflies or marine or animals or fungi or bacteria. It glows, and these beings were glowing. And whether or not that was due to some sort of biological process or maybe technology-wise, because what these boys also said was they saw these beings almost translucent, because they heard them walking down on the tree down below. They couldn't see them, but that these guys were able to become invisible. And the thing that really floored me about the case was that these beings, whatever they touched, rocks or the tree would glow based on their handprint. And I thought, gee, that's something new. I haven't come across that.
How old were they? How old were the boys?
One was 14, the other was 16, and the group leader, or the young gentleman who just finished writing a book about the case, his name is Raul, was 28 at the time. This happened in 1997, and they went back to they went on an expedition with Jaime Maussan in 1999. Back to the same tree site. They camped out overnight, and sure enough, they saw those beings walking out there in the distance. But they did not come up toward the tree. But I believe that was Jaime's first experience seeing an ET. something so out of the ordinary, as well as what it was captured, as well as what the other camp people or camp members had seen.
Jaime saw the glowing beings for himself.
Yes.
Interesting.
He will tell you, because this is one of those cases that it was very well known in Mexico, but not really here in the United States. Now, here's how synchronicity works. As I mentioned earlier about Tijuana and these sightings, just the other day I got a call from one of the promoters there in Tijuana. They're putting together a UFO conference, and they're inviting the witnesses who saw these beings. They're from the Rumarosa, as well as some other noted UFO investigators, and I was also invited. And we're going to go to that area and do a camp out. If my plans go well, I hope to go, and especially to the site. Maybe not to the tree, but to the area.
Right. Were you? I haven't talked about this yet on the air, but you were there, and you saw Victor Camacho's artifacts that he's brought up from Mexico. And we can talk a little bit about it. I mean, he showed them publicly. I don't want to disclose a whole lot about it because that's his thing, right? And he's going to be on the show with us in a couple of weeks. And
excellent.
We'll start to talk about that. But what did you think about those objects? Some of them, the ones that we were shown, the knife was 16,000 years old, carbon dated. Another one was 8,000 years old, and another one was 6,000 years old. He probably had, I'm sure you saw his collection that he had there. He probably had 30 or 40 different objects. What do you think about that? What do you think you were looking at and holding?
Well, Jimmy, I had a chance to examine those rocks that he had several years ago because he was putting together a documentary. And what I found amazing, of course, was the detail of these stones with these images of ETs and almost like a story. I said, man, you're looking at a library here because there's just
right.
It has all these hieroglyphics and it has all these interesting designs. The big thing that he was trying to do was to try to get more verification of the authenticity of these stones, because not only he has only a fragment of a collection where there are a number of these other people from that part of Mexico, Los Huellos, near in Jalisco, in the state of Jalisco. It's in a remote area, and what he wants is to get some scientific verification on these stones, and of course this may be the smoking gun. I've held other artifacts from other people. The problem is, though, Jimmy, is trying to get them across the border with customs.
Right.
And of course, if we were able to verify that just one stone as an anomaly, I mean, this definitely does give you a whole other perspective. It may be the smoking gun that we need to have in terms of answering whether man was visited by other extraterrestrials.
Well, what I found interesting about the artifacts, and to be clear here, okay? To be clear, I'm just going to say this out of the a 16,000-year-old claim, right, on an object. Well, okay, from that standpoint, you've got to go in a complete skeptic. You got to start you've got to start on the extreme end that this is all just a big elaborate hoax. That's where you have to start and then work forward. You can't go with the framework that these are authentic and then work backwards. You just can't do that. It's too fantastic. It's too perfect. It's too everything. Right.
Well, exactly.
So from that standpoint, I'm holding these objects in my hand. And the thing is, and Richard Dolan was right there standing next to me, as well. As you know, you were watching us look at these objects. And this is the thing, is they are so beautiful. They are so artistic, and they look like nothing I've ever seen sold on a roadside in Tijuana, right? You know, these carvings that you can buy, the stone. They are at another level of perfection because they are beautiful. They are bleeping beautiful. That ceremonial dagger knife is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. So now, if it is a hoax, that guy, that artist that is making these, that dude should be famous because these are really cool looking objects, man. But they look so different and so they don't look like anything else you have ever seen. Now, I looked as close as I could for any modern things like tool work or a Dremel thing or something and I couldn't find it. I'm trying to debunk this as I'm holding it in my hand, and I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah.
And that's.
Oh, Jimmy, did you see the one that was super small?
Oh man, I took pictures of that. Now,
that is amazing.
Now what Ruben is referring to was we're talking about a large collection, 30, 40, 50 different objects. There was a pipe, there's different things and different shapes and sizes and so forth. And one of them was like this, 16-inch long ceremonial dagger with these crazy teeth and stuff. Amazing, right? But what all of these objects were large. You could hold them in your hand. But he had this one that was as thin as a needle, right? Like a nail, but thinner than like a carpenter's nail, right? Like that. Then I'm going to guess and say a 1/16 of an inch or less, maybe a 32nd of an inch wide and square. And how long do you think it was? Maybe 3/4 of an inch, right?
Yes.
And so
very thin, very small.
And it had a point on the end. Mm-hmm. And then you look at it, it's tiny. It's got the most elaborate carvings on it. And I looked at it with the magnifying glass, and I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was beautiful. And when you look under with the magnifying glass, because you can see the detail with your naked eye, but you slap that magnifying glass on it, and you look at this body and the face and the design all the way down. It's like a piece of bone, I think, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, the thing that got me was the story behind it. Did he share with you how it was found?
The needle?
Yes.
No, he didn't.
Oh, he said that it was given to him from this gentleman who went out there to the site where they're excavating these rocks, and that the man was standing there and he noticed these fire ants walking, and he saw this one fire ant carrying this twig.
Oh no!
And the fire ant was going to go down the hill, and he stopped it and he grabbed it, and he realized that was no twig; it was the artifact.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, and that's just what got me. I said, "Geez, if they're able, whoever's doing this."
Have you been to the site in Jalisco?
No, I haven't. That would be a tough one. They shared with me how they had to avoid the snakes and scorpions.
Yeah, he told me the same thing. But
but it would probably be well worth it. But to do that, of course, I have to get myself into super shape again. There, Jimmy.
Oh, we're going down. I'll tell you more a little bit off the air, but I can't go too far with that part of it now. But that needs to go to the next level. And you and I talked about this up in Sacramento, and I have the ability to do that. So I'm going, man. I'm gonna go. I don't care. I'll wear the protective clothing, but I need to go up to the site. I need to see what's going on and This smoking gun, this is way beyond those words. This takes it to a whole nother level. Now, see, this is the other point that is interesting to me. We could even take the alien part out of it. Let's just take the alien part off of the table. And what I mean by that is this: if this kind of artwork was being done 16,000 years ago, aliens or not, the humans were not supposed to be able to do this kind of stuff, in the Ice Age and Stone Age man, 16,000 years ago, and this type of talented work. So that opens up a whole nother set of lost history that we need to go and investigate, and what was going on in Mexico back then, because it's way beyond the talents of anybody at 16,000 years ago. And then you throw in possible ET contact, and that's what they were trying to capture in the story, because you can see obvious planets, you can see a solar system there. There's a story that is being told. This has been documented out there for the last couple of years, and I've seen these objects. But to hold them in your hand and to look at them and start to appreciate what it is and what it could represent takes it to another level. I'm completely skeptical. It's too good. It's too good. It's too perfect. It's too everything, right?
Exactly. You asked that question. You just made me just remember something I wanted to share with you, and I'm so glad that you're thinking of going down there, because that has been the problem, is getting enough coverage by American production companies to go down there and start interviewing, because of the situation that Mexico has been going through with the drug cartel wars, and people concerned for their safety. Is that you're not getting that much coverage, because a lot of these production companies don't want to take the risk. And although it's gotten a little better, but still you have to go there with caution. And that's also what sort of stopped or hindered our research, was the fact that this was going on, and so we had to rely a lot of the information from our contacts in Mexico. But the fact that you're interested in going down there, I mean, you may see something that totally new, obviously, and that can be mind blowing.
Yeah, it has to happen. And the other part, logistically, this is how my poisoned brain works, right? Thousands of these objects have been excavated from this area. Not one, not 20, but thousands. So if they are not coming out of the ground, then somewhere down there is a frigging factory cranking this stuff out, and somebody would get busted. And that's my point. There would be way too many artisans and people involved in this, and you wouldn't be able to keep the lid on it. Okay, somebody would get caught, and that's why I've raised an eyebrow here. It would be a large production,
Yes,
just a phenomenal. Now, and the other thing, also for me, is the type of stone that is used here. I've never seen anything quite like it. It's to describe it to the audience, it almost looks like it's like a brown and white hard stone. These objects are heavy. They are dense. It's a very hard stone. I don't know what kind of stone it is, but when you pick these objects up, they are dense. They are heavy. They're not like the normal rocks that you pick up off of the ground. These are very like granite almost. And they look like a brown and white Mustang horse, right? They've got that very organic quality to them. They're beautiful. I mean, they are absolutely beautiful and polished and just extraordinary.
I have a very good friend of mine. We're working together doing some research on the connection with all the phenomena on both sides of the border. Her name is Leela Hutchinson. She's a gemologist, and she also was one of the first women explorers to go into the caves in Nyaka, which is the giant crystal caves. Do you remember?
Yep.
Those giant crystals. Yes, she was one of the first explorers to go in there, and she's written a book about her experience. But she also is very familiar with the Southwest, and so I'm sure she could probably take a look at these rocks and maybe give you an answer.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I mean, it's to be clear here, what Victor had said to get the dating of 16,000 years old was the glue where some of these stones are glued together, and they took that glue and analyzed it and came up with this number of 16,000 years old. Carbon dated, and that's just like, man.
Exactly. Actually, that's the first time I've heard that number 16,000, because at the time that I spoke with him, I did not know that he had actually found someone who was able to evaluate the age of these rocks. And so the question would be, where did he do it, or who did it? It
was an American university, but I don't want to disclose that.
Okay,
here.
yeah, that's important too.
Yeah,
the lab results.
It is, and look, that part of it, if true, if true, to put together the biological compounds in a lab setting that could show an age of 16,000 years, and knowing how to put together a compound like that to use it for glue in deception, that's way complicated. I don't even know if that can be achieved. So, I hope that everything is how it should play out. I don't, you can't carbon date rock. I mean, there's other things that you can do with it, but it's the debris and the glues and the other stuff that are involved here that will tell the tale. They're incredible.
By any chance, Jimmy, did you get his DVD?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very, very, very. And of course, it's subtitled. Very interesting.
Yeah, he asked me about that yesterday. Did you watch the DVD? I said, man. I said, Victor, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to, you have to watch my DVD. What a cool guy. Victor is one of the more honest, straightforward guys out there.
Well, the thing about, I met Victor in 2003, and we also went together to the Zone of Silence, and then we had one heck of an experience going out there, which is also south in the Mexican side of the border, known as the Bermuda Triangle of Mexico.
Right.
Although we didn't see anything, but man, we really saw some things out there that you normally don't see, like a wild group of Mustangs running right up to our truck. or we had a campsite where all of a sudden we had this thunder and lightning and rain, and it blew away totally our campsite there. But it was just very fascinating being in that region with him. And of course, he's known. He has his own radio show. Excuse me, nightly radio show. He's like you, Jimmy. The Spanish version of Jimmy Church.
that joke was running around all weekend.
And,
hey,
I've been on his show several times.
Yeah, let me jump in. I got to take a break, and I'm going to keep you for about 10 minutes of overtime. Okay, so let's do that now. Our guest tonight, Ruben Uriarte. And, man, what a fascinating conversation it has been. And I'm going to get Ruben to hang on for a few more minutes. And there you go. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back.
Listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion,
reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-618-WAVE, 888-618-WAVE, or visit mydryhome.com. mydryhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRAradio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Ruben Uriarte. And I just didn't want to let Ruben go that easily, so we'll do a little bit of overtime here. And you know, that's a great thing about a conversation on the show, Ruben, is, you know, you get all wrapped up in it, and the next thing you know, you're out of time, and you can't say goodbye like that. So hold you over, and we'll say goodbyes properly. And let me ask you this really quick. What are you working on now? You said you've got 40 different cases with MUFON.
Oh, well, we, my chief investigator, she's the one that delves out the cases, and we do have a great team of field investigators that take on some assignments. And I don't take on too much of the investigations per se, mainly because I got my hands full with all the other aspects of running MUFON, but I do get involved on some of these technical cases, and also Devlin works with me on the most complicated cases that we do get. So I do have a couple still pending that I need to get done. But one of the other things, I wanted to get back to you, what you mentioned earlier about this kind of glue. My good friend Leela had texted me back, and she's mentioned that it was geopolymer ceramic stone.
Wow.
So maybe later I could have her, or you two could if you're interested in talking with her, I'll get you her contact information.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing with these objects is, what you don't want to have happen is find out that it's epoxy that was purchased from Home Depot, right?
Yes,
that's what you don't want. But at the same time, nobody would be stupid enough to use something like that. So then now you've got to take this in a laboratory setting. I'm talking about if you're a hoax, if you're a hoaxer, right? This is some nasty trick that you're pulling on everybody, that you've got to go and figure out what the ancients were using for glues and then put this together and make it work. And I just don't see that. I don't think anybody could pull that off. So I'm curious. Yeah. I am really, really curious. Oh, this is what I was going to say about these objects. They do appear to have what looks like alien depictions. The slanted eyes, the almond-shaped eyes, the heads, the look of our classic gray alien of today. So, but if you take aliens out of the picture, they could be, I'm talking about a 16,000-year-old object or 8,000, 5,000 years old. They could be depictions of their gods or something else. It doesn't necessarily have to be E.T. We see E.T. because we deal with that imaging all the time, so it looks like that immediately. But if it is ET and the solar system and atmospheres and, like I said, Saturn and Jupiter and other things that are depicted on these objects, okay, great, fantastic. But I think it is just as of an extraordinary discovery for those kinds of talented artists that shouldn't have been around that many years ago. Yeah. And it fills the gaps of lost history and says a lot about Mexico. And I think that's just as important as anything else.
I guess, did you see the recent article, Jimmy, about the discovery of a giant pyramid? It's the largest pyramid in the world so far.
In Mexico?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll forward. Did you read that?
Yeah, I read part of it, but yeah. Go ahead and send me what you got.
Yeah, I'll definitely send it to you. And
where's it located?
Not too far from the volcano, near Puebla, which is near the Popocatépetl volcano, which is the volcano where a number of UFO sightings have been occurring.
Right,
in years.
In and out of the volcano.
Oh, yes. And over the years, Jimmy, I mean, back then I had a chance to really talk with these people that have been observing those objects. I think the one that stays with me was one night we were doing a night watch close to the volcano, and we had a diverse group of people. We had teachers, we had professionals, we had campesinos, people that were out there in agriculture and that, all walks of life. And I'll never forget what this young man was telling me. He said the most eerie thing that really floored him was seeing this triangle flying right above the field, not making a sound, and just gently just floating across the air. He said that's what really, really impressed him. And as he's describing, I'm looking at his body language, and I thought, whoa, this young man saw something really quite extraordinary.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, now I'm listening to you, and I just spaced. I was going to ask you, oh, man, Ruben,
it'll come to you.
I was right there, and I can't believe I just let it go. I let it go. It doesn't matter. Where are you speaking next?
Well, Jimmy, if everything works out well, probably. I'll be speaking in Tijuana.
Tijuana. We'll get back to that. Now I know what. Were you at Contact in the Desert this year?
No, unfortunately, I wasn't.
Okay, because that's what I wanted to ask you about, was those mass sightings that we all witnessed out there. which were I saw a few different orbs, but I saw one that was green and it was metallic, and I heard you reference that earlier. Yes. And I just wanted to know if you were out of contact and were witness to all of those events. And it was a mass sighting, and it was amazing. But I wanted to see if you could correlate that with some of the other reports that you've been getting in at MUFON, because it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what I heard from my friends that attended, and also some of the cases that was reported from some of the witnesses to Southern California MUFON. My friend Jeff and his team are reviewing those. That would be another interesting man down the road for you to have.
Oh, Jeff, you're talking about Jeff Krause? Yeah.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, I heard he plays guitar too.
Yeah, Jimmy, I don't know what it is. We get so many people that are musicians or in the arts that wind up being key witnesses to UFO sightings. And once in a great while, I'll get a phone call from someone who wants to remain anonymous, but they're on tour. They go into Las Vegas or all these other big name places, and they want to talk about what they saw. So
and he's got that
anonymity.
He's got that one case that was shot right there in San Luis Obispo.
Yes,
and the photographs. I think that was back in the 60s. I'm trying to think of the hill that he calls it. But anyway,
yes,
it's one of the most fascinating cases ever. And it's right there in his backyard, and he's constantly researching that. But Jeff is a great guy. Well, listen, I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight and taking the time, and I can't wait to get you back on. And when you've got a really cool breaking case that you want to get out there, let us know, and we'll get you in right away. Thank you so much, Ruben.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks for the invitation, and thank you for having me on the show there, and a big hugs to all my friends and people that were listening to this show.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. You're a legend, and don't ever stop doing what you're doing. Thank you so much, Ruben.
Thank you.
Ruben Uriarte, everybody, thank you so much. Director, Northern California MUFON. And do go to his website, roswellbooks.com, and check it out. All of his stuff is great. He is the best. I'm going to take a quick break, come back with all of the news that you know nothing about, and a couple of phone calls just came in. Maybe I'll take a couple more. I'll be right back. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
FoodForLiberty.com sells high-quality, storable foods from Numana. And right now, take advantage of our summer special. Purchase 2 family packs and we'll send you a Pro Pure Water Pitcher, a $70 value, free. This premium pitcher is ideal for use with just about any water source and removes more contaminants than other brands. And it comes with a filter that lasts up to 2 full years. Whether you need to be prepared in the event of an emergency, you're an outdoor sports enthusiast, Numana is known for high-quality, great-tasting, GMO-free, super nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. And with a 25-year shelf life, you can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. Go to foodforliberty.com right now for great-tasting, high-quality, storable foods from Numana. Buy 2 family packs and get the Pro Pure Water Pitcher free. It makes good sense to be prepared. Get it at foodforliberty.com.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's all here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Thank you, Ruben. And if you go to Ruben's website, roswellbooks.com, all of his conferences and festival information is right there on the website, and tickets and so forth. Everything is there at roswellbooks.com. Now, I've got a pile, and I mean a pile of news that you know nothing about. And I'm going to bang through all of this before the end of the show. Russian hackers attacked American media, including the New York Times and other news organizations. And this is according to the famous unnamed American officials. News of the breaches follows closely behind the hacks targeting the Democratic National Committee, the DCC Committee, and data linked from the National Security Agency. Unnamed American officials have gone to the media and blamed the first two incidents on Russian hackers, but no U.S. official has gone on the record to lay blame on any group yet. The FBI and other U.S. agencies are said to be investigating the media hacks. Tesla Motors announced today that it will be selling a battery capable of taking an electric car 315 miles on a single charge. The first time an automaker is providing that much electric charge in a vehicle ever. The company said it would begin selling its Model S sedan and Model X SUV with a 100 kilowatt hour battery. It will allow the company to sell, and they're calling it now the P100 battery version of these vehicles that operate in the company's well-known ludicrous mode. Yes, taken from Spaceballs, the movie. Tesla claims the sedan can travel from 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, while the SUV can do it in 2.9 seconds. The current Tesla product range can reach roughly 210 miles per charge. A 5-fold increase in the price of emergency allergy medication has drawn a reaction from several U.S. senators who have accused the manufacturer of exploiting a monopoly. It's called the EpiPen, and you know what the EpiPen is, and it administers a quick dose of ephedrine to counter severe life-threatening allergic reactions. Well, it is owned by a company in West Virginia called Mylan Pharmaceuticals, which now finds itself accused of price gouging. Mylan bought EpiPen from Merck Group back in 2007 and has since raised the price by more than 450%. Adjusted for inflation, by the way, reported that the pen was $100 in 2008, and now it retails for Now, given that U.S. doctors have issued, and I want you to take out your calculator right now, some 3.6 million prescriptions last year, the hike is not sitting well with me. It's insane. That is a lot of money. And that is a monopoly, that is price gouging, and they should be ashamed. Ecuador has criticized... Is this thing on? Listen to this story. Ecuador has criticized British police for their slow response to a call reporting that an unknown man was trying to break into its London embassy, where WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been living for 4 years. That's right. It really happened. The Ecuadorian government condemned the, and I'm quoting here, the inadequate response, end quote, of London police, who it claims arrived 2 hours after the incident took place. The delayed response is especially surprising given the huge quantity of resources Britain has poured into surveillance operations, if you know what I mean, outside that very embassy since 2012. That's all they do is look, watch, and videotape that embassy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Why? Because Julian lives there. Now, Quito, the capital of Ecuador, released a press statement earlier today in which it confirmed reports that an unidentified man had tried to break into its London embassy in the early hours of yesterday. Now, this is where it gets nuts. How far away is the London police station from the embassy? It's a 2-minute walk. That's right. 1 block. Check Google Maps for a good laugh. 2 hours it took for them to respond. Yeah. Well, check this out. And look, save your email, save the criticism, all you Trump lovers. I'm not a Trump lover. I'm not a Hillary lover. I'm a Trump basher and a Hillary basher because this is one of the most pathetic times in United States history. But nonetheless, U.S. presidential hopeful Donald Trump has a more psychopathic trait than Adolf Hitler. That's right. A researcher at Oxford University has found out and released the report. Psychologist Dr. Kevin Dutton has ranked the psychopathic traits of the Republican candidate and various other historical figures using a standard psychometric tool, the Psychopathic Personality Inventory Revised, or the PPI-R. Now listen to this. Experts suggested likely scores against a series of questions. Trump scored a 171, 2 points more than Hitler. Saddam Hussein topped the list, scoring a 189, while Democratic presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton received a score of 152, putting her in the top 20%. Margaret Thatcher, 136 points. And Queen Elizabeth I got away with 130. There you go. Save your email. I don't want to hear it. A ceramic fragment. And by the way, you can go to our Facebook page to review all of this stuff and the photographs that we have posted. A ceramic fragment dating back to 5000 BC with what might be the world's oldest writing has been discovered in a previously unknown settlement found underneath the ancient Roman road station Ad Putea near the town of Ruben in Bulgaria. The archaeological excavations of the ancient Roman road station at Putea have been led by archaeologist Associate Professor Sergei Torbatov from the National Institute and Museum of Archaeology, who is an expert, by the way, in Roman archaeology. You've got to check this out. We've got the front and back pictures of this object right now over on our Facebook page. And yes, it has been dated to 5000 BC. Absolutely crazy. The Roman road went over the settlement. Okay? Rome was founded 400 BC, so let's not get too excited. That's not what we're saying here. You need to go and look at this. Is it writing? Clearly. Do we know what it's saying? No. We don't know what the language is, but it is pretty incredible. Stanford University is not the university that I would have preferred to go to these days, because I might want to send my daughters there, because they updated its alcohol policy for undergraduates before the 2016 fall term, prohibiting hard alcohol from on-campus parties. They did the press release today. Yeah. The ban, which exempts parties hosted by student organizations as well as residences with a 100% graduate student occupation, means students cannot consume mixed drinks at on-campus parties. While shots are prohibited campus-wide, by the way, regardless of school affiliation or age, Stanford's new policy, however, still allows for undergraduates of legal age to possess and consume hard alcohol in their rooms. The school, however, has placed a blanket ban on any liquor bottles on campus 750 milliliters or more, meaning students can only buy pint-sized bottles or smaller of hard liquor. Stanford. And you know what this stems from, the swimmer that had the rape case a couple of years ago. Now, about 1,500 Americans floating down a river that separates the United States from Canada had to be rescued from the water when strong rains and winds sent them illegally into Canadian territory. And that's according to the Canadian Coast Guard. The Americans were taking part in the annual Port Huron float down on Sunday in the St. Clair River, which runs between the United States of Michigan and the Canadian province of Ontario. The winds blew the entire flotilla of inflatable rafts and inner tubes off course and towards the Canadian shore. Some of the rafts deflated, spurring a rescue effort by the Canadian Coast Guard as well as federal and provincial police, Coast Guard spokesman had said. Now, most floaters had to be rescued from the water, with many towed to shore, according to the Coast Guard. No reports on whether anybody wanted to claim asylum or anything and stay in Canada. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Ruben Uriarte. Great conversation tonight, sir. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kermurian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark T. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fading by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication, KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. Tomorrow night, Anthony Sanchez, back from retirement. I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.